Reporting live from Hypers Club, Fright Plus News, I'm Janaba. It's now been 15 days in which Nolan Wells will go on a trip with his friends, who some are now questioning if they were his friends, to Horn Island, located about 10 miles off the coast of Mississippi, where his friends would return, but he would not. According to his friends, Wells would decide to stay back because he took interest in a girl. Now, what would raise immediate questions for Wells' family, who would find out he was missing around 11 p.m. that night on July 4th. Why wouldn't Nolan have his phone with him if he was going to be separated from his group, with no ride confirmed to get back? It is because of this, many are having a hard time believing that 18-year-old Wells would leave his cell phone on a boat he traveled on and somehow hitch an unconfirmed ride back to mainland without any way of letting his friends or family know he made it back safely. Wells' body would be found 2 days later, washed ashore in the same part of the island his friends would depart from. Now, a part of his mysterious death lies race, given that Wells appeared to be the only black person amongst his group of all-white friends that would travel to and from the island. Now, according to his football stats, Wells is described as being 6'1" and approximately 180 pounds, which has become another reason for some that his passing can't just be a simple drowning, because someone should have noticed him. Now, to note, there are no lifeguards on Horn Island, meaning that there isn't someone always watching the island's visitors. According to CNN's description of the island, there are no facilities, no drinking water, no structure, and no emergency services on site, meaning the island comes with a level of risk, or for some is the perfect place for a crime scene. On Friday, Wells' mother would take to Facebook to cut through the noise of commentary and racial division by speaking out that she just wants to know what happened to her son that day. Now, despite new GPS and audio information being released and the local sheriff's office investigating the case, Christine Wansley would admit she still has no idea what happened to her son 14 days later. My husband and my goal has and will always be to find out what happened to our son, Nolan Wells. Don't ever get that confused. From the looks of her statement, it appears that her form of justice is finding out what exactly happened to her son. While it also exposes a huge issue for many, why haven't authorities given her an account of what happened to her son that day? To note, at the top of Nolan Wells' mysterious death, Jackson County Sheriff Ledbetter would express he didn't see any signs of foul play initially, causing some to accuse him of trying to cover the incident up, and showed how unjust the system can be when dealing with black lives. But now, as more and more people continue following the case, it looks like that he and his office will take a pivot, as a grand jury will now examine all of their findings that will hopefully reveal some questionable accounts about Nolan's death. Now, it is because of this lack of information and the fact that many don't know what happened to Nolan when he was reportedly last seen at 4 p.m. that day by anyone, after allegedly seeing his friends at 3 p.m. has caused a series of theories to take place, along with the most recent information.
Whole data came in from Nolan Wells. Okay, you did a whole lot of damn traveling for that boat to be damn messed up. Look, at 9:56 a.m., that boat leaves to go to Horn Island. Okay, green, that's fine, ain't nothing wrong with that. Look, the boat arrived at 11:14 at Horn Island. Fine, that adds up to me, right? Then you leave at 4:31 p.m. All right, so y'all had a good little time, but I don't know if Nolan Wells was on that boat or not. Something tells me that he was on that damn boat. Look, this is where it gets real fuzzy. From 4:31 to 5:52, they done took a damn U-turn. They went somewhere and they went to Fort Bayou. Okay, well, I thought the damn boat was messed up. You were supposed to go from Horn Island back to the dock. Y'all took your ass to Fort Bayou. Why? What was there? The boat was messed up. Why would you go there? Look, then you leave Fort Bayou and you return to the original spot at 6:06 p.m. So from 4:31 to 6:06 p.m., there is fuzziness in here. That's about an hour and a half. If I'm not mistaken, about an hour and a half. Something happened to Nolan Wells in between this time right here. For them leaving that damn Horn Island to returning back to that, something happened at Fort Bayou. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Look, and then, look, then after 6:06 p.m., you carry your ass back to Fort Bayou. Probably to check the scene out, make sure everything's clear. For what y'all, whatever y'all damn did. So then, after 7:19, look, the boat was transported by car to Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, y'all got some explaining to do. What happened between 4:31, basically between 6:00 and 6:06? But for real, what happened between 4:31 and 7:19? What the hell happened? Y'all know. And then the best friend told my son, well, he not even the best friend, because the mama cleared that up and said, you know what? That ain't his childhood friend. I don't know no Tracer. Why would his mama even name him some stupid shit like that? I don't know him. Something we ain't want to see him die. You ain't want to see him die, then what the hell, what you do to see him die? We all didn't want to see him die. Hey, you better stop talking, young man. You better stop talking, young man. And I think they paid you to talk. But now you sound like a fool. What happened?
Now we have the timeline from the boat GPS, which clearly shows that the boat returned back to water. This completely contradicts the conversation around the boat taking on water, like the mother Ashley Cole said. The questions around this case are alarming. If you watch today's press conference with the family, you can see they know something. Something came in that independent autopsy that they're not telling us, and I think I know why. They're not bringing in a grand jury unless they have a case. My question is, why haven't the boys been picked up for questioning? Why haven't their phones been confiscated so we can see all of the timeline of them having conversations? Why haven't any of them talked to the press? Why didn't any of them go out looking for Nolan, even though that boat moved around in the water after they said they left? Why hasn't the autopsy been released from the state? What are they waiting for? There's a lot of heavy unanswered questions in this case. But I think it's safe to say that we all feel the same. At almost 400 people in that live, and most of us said the same thing. Something happened, and they're hiding it.
The more information that comes out in the Nolan Wells case, the more questions I have. So let's look at this timeline. Let's talk about it. At 9:56 a.m., the boat leaves the dock. At 11:14 a.m., the boat arrives at Horn Island. And around 3 o'clock p.m., Nolan is reportedly last seen. At 4:31 p.m., GPS shows the boat leaving Horn Island without Nolan. Sometimes after leaving the island, a distress call was reportedly made claiming the boat was taking on water and needed assistance. The exact time of that call is not publicly confirmed. At 5:44 p.m., the boat returns to the original dock. 5:52 p.m., GPS shows the boat traveling into Fort Bayou, and at 6:06 p.m., the boat returns to the original dock again. At 7:19 p.m., the boat goes to the Fort Bayou boat launch. Again, around 11 o'clock p.m., the Coast Guard says it was notified that Nolan was missing. Now, here's what I'm trying to understand. If the boat had a mechanical emergency that required everyone to leave the island, when exactly did that happen? How serious was the issue? Why does the GPS show the boat continuing to travel afterward? Why the additional trips to Fort Bayou? And if Nolan was last seen around 3 o'clock p.m., why wasn't the Coast Guard notified that he was missing until around 11 o'clock p.m.? Listen, I'm not saying this timeline proves anyone committed a crime. I'm saying there are questions that deserve answers. That's why the GPS data, Coast Guard records, phone records, and witness statements all need to be compared.
When I was putting together the timeline and piecing it together, there were two things that stuck out to me. One was there were several trips back and forth, and two, there is an hour and 13-minute time gap, and I'm going to talk to you about it. So first, at 9:56 a.m., the boat leaves the original dock. It arrives at Horn Island at 11:14. So at around 4 o'clock, there is a call to the Coast Guard about the boat. NBC News got a hold of it. Here's a quick snippet. This is the only little snippet I could find.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Everybody's on board. So does that mean Nolan is on there? Who was on that boat? At 4:31, the boat leaves Horn Island and it is towed approximately 3 miles, and then the tow ends. So after 3 miles, they go back to the original dock, okay? They arrive at 5:44 p.m. So it looks like this is where Horn Island is, and this is where the original dock is that I am referring to. I looked it up, and El Camino Real Road is in Gulf Hills, Mississippi, which is right above Ocean Springs. So I'm wondering if this is the house where they got the phone. Now, the boat travels to Fort Bayou. At 6:06, the boat returns to the original dock. Then, from the original dock, the boat goes back to Fort Bayou, and then they go to the boat launch, and it is put onto the trailer and moved by the vehicle. Now, it doesn't specify what part of Fort Bayou it goes to, but it looks like on this map right here, this is where it looks like they took the boat out. If there's any locals that know this area, please chime in, let us know your thoughts. So here's my question. Did they drop people off at the original dock, travel to Fort Bayou, pick somebody up, and go back to that original dock? And then from there, why was there an hour and 13-minute time gap? This boat was sinking hours before, and then they're just having it docked for an hour and 13 minutes. You would think they'd want to get that boat out of the water ASAP.
Let's talk about it more in the comments below. Now that we've heard Wells' mother reveal that she and her family still don't have an answer to what happened to Nolan 2 weeks after his body was found on a Mississippi beach where he was last seen amongst friends, why do you think that is? And what are your theories with the newest released information? Reporting live from Ripers Club, Fright Plus News, I'm Janaba.